In this video, we're going to talk about absolute value equations. And first, I want to talk about what an absolute value is. And I believe that you've already encountered absolute value in a math class. And as you can see, it's just two vertical lines. And these vertical lines basically show that it's an absolute value symbol. And most of the time we say that it's basically the same thing as a parentheses. However, the only difference between these two is that an absolute value magically turns everything into a positive number. And the reason behind that is because of the concept that we have in physics and math, and it's called a distance. Distance is basically how much you travel from one point to another point, and distance does not have any direction associated with it, which means, let's say I live in here and this is my house, and I travel this many distance and I go to the right, and this is where the shop is, and I travel this much. However, I might travel into this direction. I might go south, and there might be another shop. I might go to the left. There might be another shop. And the reason I wanted to explain it this way is because of the fact that, as you can see, once we go right, all the values of x, or all the values that we have in our x axis, is positive, and the ones that we go for the left is always negative. And the reason behind that is because of the coordinate system that we already talked about. However, in this case, I want to talk about how it's related to absolute value. The way it's related is because of the fact that we don't care about which direction we're going, which means if I'm here, I do not care if I go left, right, up, down. I only care about how much I'm traveling. I only care about how much did I go to how much did I go, not to the left or to the right. How much did I travel? How much did I go? And that basically makes everything positive, meaning that if I go to the right, let's say 5 steps to the right or 5 steps to the left, it doesn't matter which axis I'm going to or I'm going towards. It's just the fact that I'm going 5 steps, and that's all that matters. And that's the concept behind absolute value. We do not care about which direction we're going to. We only care about how many steps we're taking. Let's say, for example, we have Tom and he goes to the right 5 steps. And the question is asking us how many distance did Tom travel? Now, because we know that he went to the right, we already know that the answer should be a positive number, meaning that 5. However, this question can be worded as Tom is going to the left and he took 5 steps. Now, how much did he travel? And because, again, we're not talking about which direction he went to, or if he went up, down, or left or right, we don't care about that, because as long as we know that he's traveling and he's taking these steps, we know that we only care about the distance he is traveling, and that is 5 again. It doesn't matter if he went to right or left. It's just the fact that he went and he took those 5 steps. Now, another question might be that the absolute value of a number is 2. What is the number itself? Now, we already know that we can add up, subtract, and do a lot of operations when we're talking about adding or subtracting or finding a number. However, I'm just going to go with like the basics. Let's say absolute value of something is equal to 2. Now, there's two possibilities. This this number, it can be this x, it can either be positive 2 or it can either be negative 2, because of the fact that absolute value makes everything positive. Now, if I have a negative 2 inside of an absolute value, it is going to give me a positive 2, because again, it goes back to the concept of the distance, and it actually is connected to vectors, but we're not there yet. So all I want to say is that If you have an absolute value of a number, you always need to realize that you're not working with the positive version, you're also working with the negative version of that number because of the fact that absolute value makes everything positive. Now, if the absolute value of a number is 2, it means that you have two possible answers for your answer. As your answer, which the first one is a positive 2 and the second one should be a negative 2, because again, if we put both of these inside the absolute value, they give you the same answer. So there's two possible answers for our question. Now let's say we have this equation, absolute value of x plus 2 equals 9. How do we solve this? Again, we should realize that it's like the example from before. We should remember there's two cases, because in the first case we know that our whole equation x plus 2 should equal 9, because again 9 is a positive number and the absolute value gives us two possible answers, and the case 2 should be 2 plus x plus 2 equals negative 9. Now let's solve for x in both of these. As you can see, x also has two possible answers, 7 and negative 11. If you put both of these answers in here, they will give us an answer that is either negative absolute value of negative 9 or absolute value of positive 9. And as you can see, if we put a 7 in here, we get 7 plus 2, which is not absolute value of 9, which is 9. And if we put a negative 11 in here, we get absolute value of negative 9, which is again 9. So all I need to say is that we always need to remember that there's two cases when we have an absolute value sign in our function. And we should remember that the absolute value basically functions as a parenthesis, but the only difference is that it's making everything inside of it positive. Now let's say for the sake of practice, we have the absolute value of 2x minus 5 equals 1. Now again, we should remember that there's two cases. That in case 1, we have 2x minus 5 equals positive 1. And in case 2, we have 2x minus 5 equals negative 1. And we just solve for x from here. As you can see, we again get two answers for our x, which is x is equal to 3 and x is equal to 2. Now let's say we have the absolute value of 5x minus 1 equals negative 2. Is this question actually correct? And the answer is no, because of the fact that we get a negative number as our result. Because the whole equation is equal to a negative number, we should realize that an absolute value is not working here, because of the fact that every single time we work with absolute value, the answers that we get for our equation is always a positive number. And as you can see, there's a negative number in here. Whenever we see that negative number, we should make sure that the question doesn't have any typo in it, because this question has a typo or something in it because of the fact that we have a negative 2. And in general, we say that there's no solution for this question, because the absolute value sign itself means that the product or whatever we get as our answer, it should always be positive, not a negative number. And as you can see, we get a negative number in here. That means that the answer is not correct. Now for this question as well, you can see that the question is x plus 3 equals negative 1, or the absolute value of x plus 3 equals negative 1. And again, because of the fact that we get a negative number and the fact that absolute value always gives us a positive answer, we say that these have no solution, or that there might be a typo in the question. Let's say we have a question like 3 times absolute value of x minus 1 minus 2 equals 7. And this is where the PEMDAS come up, because as you can see, absolute value is multiplying by something else, and we need to solve for x in this question. Now we should realize that again, Just as I told you before in the beginning of the video, that we always think of an absolute value as a parenthesis, especially when it comes to operations, which means that we should first get rid of anything that's close to x and then solve for x. We have 3 absolute value of x minus 1. Now let's get of this 2. Get 3 absolute value of x minus 1 equals 7 plus 2 is 9. Now let's divide by 3 both sides. We get x minus 1 equals 3. And as you can see, this is like the questions that we did before, which means, again, we should realize that this is a positive number. And since it's a positive number, we should have 2 possible solutions where this answer is positive and the other one where it's negative. So case 1 is when x minus 1 equals positive 3, and case 2 is when x minus 1 is equal to negative 3. And as you can see, we get 2 possible answers for our question, which means our answer is correct. The first one is x is equal to 4, and the other one is x is equal to negative 2. And this was for this video, and always remember that the absolute value should give you a positive answer, and if our answer is equal to a negative number, there might be a typo or there's no solution for our equation. Thank you.